I want to tell you all a story about a PC that holds a very special place in my heart. So get comfortable, grab a cup of tea or a beer if that's more your thing, and come along for the ride. This is a story about Lilac. Now, the computer that the name Lilac refers to has had several other names, different faces, and has been comprised of various components over the years. Kind of my own little ship of Theseus. But to me, it's always been the first PC that I ever built for myself, from parts that I'd salvaged from the trash, and the PC that I would keep in my bedroom. It's been through several iterations and even a weird emo phase, but it was always my computer. However, it wasn't called Lilac until it looked like this. Lilac began its life in the late 90s as an IBM IntelliStation. It belonged to the owners of the Chamshan Buddhist temple in Niagara Falls. One day on a family visit, I was reviewing a photosphere that my brother had just taken, and I immediately saw the unmistakable rear end of a computer tower. Sure enough, I found in the pile of old furniture that they were also throwing away electronics, among which would be this IBM. My first ever computer was a 300GL, which shared the same design language, so I instantly knew I had to have it. I timidly asked one of the people there if I was allowed to take it home and was met with a generous yes. Sadly, since I never got it working, it would spend the next 16 months under my bed collecting dust, until one day, I decided it deserved to be put to good use. But where was my PC at this time? Or better yet, what was my PC? One day on a walk home from school, I spotted a computer next to the apartment complex dumpster. It looked like a fully custom-built PC with an Asus motherboard running a Pentium dual-core and 2 gigs of RAM. At this time, my brother and I had just built a budget PC to replace our horribly aging HP, so instead, I took this PC for myself. I had always wanted one of my own, one that wasn't the family computer, and so, with that Asus motherboard as its backbone, I started something I never knew would be such a big part of my life. At first, I ran it with a Pentium D. Now, in my mind, I thought that since they were both dual cores that the one with the higher clock would perform better. But I would later learn that architecture makes all the difference, not to mention that the Pentium D would overheat and throttle. So then came my PC's first ever upgrade, that is, going back to its original CPU. I had a lot of fun with this version, mostly from just setting it up and getting everything to work. It was a weird little build and I was really proud of it, but most importantly, it was a fun learning experience. This is yet another PC that I saved from becoming e-waste. This Athlon-powered Optiplex had NVIDIA graphics, which was leagues ahead of the 945G chipset that I was all too familiar with. But as you'll come to learn, nothing is forever. This particular setup was one of my all-time favorites, yet it was so short-lived. It was very cozy and I loved how refined it was compared to before. But as we moved out of our apartment, I had to say goodbye. Finding this GeForce was great news to me because while I had been wanting to put to use this Core 2 Duo, I didn't want to give up NVIDIA graphics. But this was all the reason I needed to switch back to the Asus. It had a busted fan, but with a little bit of ingenuity and perhaps a little luck, I was able to fix it. A few zip ties later and the PC I knew and loved was back. This is what I would call the classic era of my PC. This modified RAID Max case with the blue LEDs really brings it all together. I can't count how many late summer nights were spent under the gentle breeze of my ceiling fan, playing games, listening to music, eating instant noodles, browsing forums, and talking to friends. I handled it all like a champ, and in fact I was now using this computer more than my Skylake PC. I had finally transplanted the system into the IBM case, birthing a now matured Lilac. It was gorgeous, and I couldn't wait to get more use out of it. But the sad part is that I had just gotten a laptop. A ThinkPad, actually, which I absolutely loved, and for everyday use was just too convenient, which meant I wasn't spending as much time with Lilac anymore. I turned on the PC hoping to finally have some fun with it, and was met with the telltale signs of corrupt memory and visual artifacts. I was legitimately heartbroken. The GeForce that had served me so well had just died, leaving Lilac without a graphics card. And on top of that, the Kingston RAM was also causing problems. The PC was pretty much useless at this point, but I couldn't bring myself to get rid of it. Intel graphics wasn't anything I was excited to go back to, and as if Lilac hadn't been getting the use it deserved, it was effectively a paperweight now. I would always think to myself, I can just go and buy a cheap, used, period-accurate graphics card, but that's not what Lilac was ever about. It didn't feel right. The only way to bring Lilac back was to find this new graphics card in the wild. When I brought home this 8600 GT, I wasn't even sure if it was in working condition, but when I saw it boot up, my face lit up. I was smiling ear to ear, and for that day, I was a kid again. Lilac was back and better than ever before, and I sure as hell wasn't gonna let it rot, so I made it my full-time late thousands machine. And so I present to you Lilac in its current glory. It's been through some rough times, as have I, but I wouldn't have it any other way. If I hadn't grown up with this PC and watched it grow up with me, I would be remiss to just sell it or give it away even. It's not worth much these days, but it means the world to me. You don't have to be rich to have nice things. Hell, you don't even have to be poor to realize that nice things aren't what bring you joy. Finding joy in tinkering with old computers that others have kicked to the curb just happens to be a quite accessible way of doing so. In fact, everything you see here could be yours for just about $25 if you know where to look. And if I really wanted to, if you can't afford today's nice things, look for last decade's nice things. Something old with a bit of character always beats current day junk destined for a landfill. Lilac was never my most powerful PC, nor was it my first ever PC, not the first that I built, upgraded. It was never the smallest, quietest, lightest, but man does it have one hell of a story, and man does it bring me joy to use it. Thank you all for being with me and listening to the story of Lilac. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.